Hello and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, and this is another in our series of the designers and makers Fireside Chats. Fireside Chat because an interview is more scripted than we will ever be. Expect us to have very little in the way of rails. It's very much going to be a hex crawl. With me today, I have Robert from the Strange Gods podcast. Welcome.
Hello and thank you. What's up?
Thank you. I really appreciate everybody who's been able to stop on by and join me on this. And I like basically expanding the community, getting people to get to know the people that are the other players, the other designers and makers. And I'm glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've heard through the other players and the DM that you've already interviewed some of the other detritus in our group.
Yes, Humble Joe was last night, and I believe I have another interview scheduled for next week with somebody from the podcast.
Cool.
So it's been good. I think Humble Joe and I probably could have gone on for over an hour if we didn't just have to pull the plug.
He's a good dude. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, he really was. Yes. So it was a damn good interview. So what I'm going to do right now, Robert, is I am going to hit you with 5 questions that I ask of pretty much everybody that sits down. They nothing too scary, I hope. First question: tell us about your first RPG experience.
First RPG experience. Wow. Okay, so I didn't get into RPGs until probably my freshman year of high school. So we'll say that's, I don't know, 16 years ago or something. It was right around the time that 3rd edition came out. Okay. And I was the one that reined my friends into just come and hang out at Barnes & Noble's, because I guess that was the hangout spot after high school, and we'd all meet there anyways for coffee and just to shoot the shit and hang out. So I was like, hey, why not try out this game, Dungeons and Dragons? So I ran the first little adventure out of the back of that book and have played ever since. I've not stopped since then. That's the long and the short of it. But I've always, I think for the most part, I've always DM'd. So up until recently, since joining the Strange Gods, I've been more of a player than a DM or GM.
Yeah, I pretty much got pegged as a DM in my early gaming. And my gaming group other people would run like Rifts or Rollmaster maybe, but if it was D&D, nobody else would touch D&D but me. I don't know why that happened. So basically, you taught yourself D&D.
Yeah, I did. It kind of happened. I'd say it was like a happy accident, because that was around the same time that I started getting into like EverQuest and Ultima Online and playing MUDs and stuff. So it's pretty much just playing early online MMOs and RPGs by myself. And I can't remember exactly how I heard about D&D, but I ended up just buying the Player's Handbook right out of Barnes & Nobles. And I've always been into like high fantasy and sci-fi and all that kinds of stuff. So it kind of just, it was a natural progression towards Dungeons and Dragons. And like the first book that I ever remember reading that was pretty hefty was The Hobbit, and I read that in its entirety before high school. So yeah, Tolkien for the win.
Excellent. See, it's interesting with my gaming group. When I went into the police academy, we had 8 months of me with weekends off, and then it was like Wednesday, Thursday, working 5:30 at night to 2:00 in the morning, and we stopped gaming. But MMOs, specifically EverQuest, brought the group back together. It was strange.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we migrated to that because we could all kind of do it on the weird off hours, and you didn't have to get everybody together. You could only do it with a couple of people, and yeah. Man,
yeah.
That's right. The days before like high-speed internet, when people were on dial-up and got second phones so they could talk to their fellow players.
Yeah, I remember those days. I'd have to tell my mom, or she'd have to regulate me. Like, you can only play for a couple hours tonight, and I'd get a phone call and interrupt the entire game. I'm like, damn it!
Yep. Oh God, I remember that too. It's like disabled call waiting.
Yeah, yeah. I remember convincing my mom and grandparents to get us a second line dedicated to internet for our 14.4K modem.
Oh God.
I was super excited to upgrade to 56K too back then.
Oh yeah, 56K, which would with the newer ones that were trying to hint that they could actually kind of effectively do more than 56K.
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah. Oh damn. Or how to cheat like with the AOL. If you wanted to be on AOL beyond your 5 hours or then 20 hours, you could go to their community area, and if you jumped out of the community area a certain way, it
Yeah.
still wouldn't tag your time, but you could go explore the rest of AOL. Oh my God. now I'm beginning to feel old.
Oh man.
Crap.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
All right. So what? Oh jeez. What is your go-to RPG system these days, and why?
Go-to is definitely Pathfinder, because I had such an investment in third edition and 3.5, and I played fourth edition. It wasn't what I wanted out of my tabletop RPGs, based around fantasy. And a friend told me about Pathfinder, and it looked like 3.5 plus. So I was like, okay, it just felt natural to just jump straight into Pathfinder, and I've been playing that ever since. Here and there, we'll pepper in some other miscellaneous games like Call of Cthulhu, or I convinced maybe for one summer my group to play Heroes Unlimited, which is an offshoot of the Rift system, which was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, that's the Palladium system. Listen,
Palladium, yeah, right.
Yes, well, the Palladium system was Palladium Fantasy. I love the setting for that, and I have a signed copy of that rule book. I think my Rift is the first printing that was signed at my one trip to Gen Con.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, by Kevin Sambita and Kevin Long.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. We had a lot of great Rift campaigns. I never GM'd Rifts. I was always a player. My problem with Rifts was if you didn't have a character with significant MDC, if you wanted to play like, I don't know, a crazy or a vagabond, it might fit a role playing aspect, but you were gonna die right away. So,
right.
Yeah, but I have friends in my gaming group from back then that still buy every Rift release as they come out. We'll get together, and I just see a whole shelf of it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely love the Heroes Unlimited aspect, because it made sense to me versus just the regular Rifts, because you're superheroes and you can handle or deal out the mega damage and all that stuff. I just love the randomness of all the systems and just the character creation. It was just there's a lot to it. I love randomness in that kind of stuff. I think the first character that I rolled just for fun ended up being like a 5 foot tall human who had blue fur but was extremely skinny and could throw rocks at people. Pretty interesting.
Well, see, now if you like systems for the randomness, you have to play, or at least pick up a copy of the classic Traveler rules, where you can actually die during character generation.
I've heard about this game. I think one of my other friends was trying to get a group together to play it just because of that fact.
Yeah, in high school, me and my friend Andrew, we had I don't know, we were like the book room monitors like twice a week. So for like a 2-hour stretch, twice a week, we delivered books. But really, we delivered books in about 10 minutes and spent the extra hour and 50 rolling Traveler characters and seeing how many deaths we could get.
Oh wow, is it that intense?
Yeah, because it's kind of like gambling, because the longer you live, the more skills you can accumulate, because you don't accumulate skills during the game. The actual play of the game is more about making political connections or bigger ships. That's how you improve your character. But the skills you start out with are based upon how much you can accumulate during character generation. So it was like push your luck. And then like,
That's interesting.
oh yeah, you can have a
That's
really,
interesting.
it's like, oh, my characters look really good, and damn it, he didn't survive. Son of a, I should have stopped while I was ahead. But yeah, we pulled that one off.
Cool.
All right, so the next question, and since you're mostly like a Pathfinder player, I'm assuming you don't have too much experience with older editions of D&D and AD&D.
No, not at all. To be completely honest, like I
No,
didn't even
that's
know OSR was a thing until Milkor, our GM for Strange Gods, kind of dragged us into it. Literally, he dragged us all by our feet.
well. The thing with the OSR or old school role playing, Renaissance, revival, retardation, whatever you want to call it. What I like about it is, I came into gaming with the first edition of AD&D, and the issue I have coming when I came back to gaming was it's a great game and system. It's just so haphazardly put together. It doesn't, like, my mind now expects to find my rules pretty much laid out in a way that makes sense, and one leads to the other. And the OSR has rule sets that have rewritten or they present anew the classic white box, the first edition of AD&D, or the second edition, or the basic box, and it's much more approachable. And that's why I'm such an enthusiastic OSR gamer, is because I can now play the games I used to play, but with a system that's now written well enough that once I've read through it once or twice, I can probably run it without referring to the book or minimal, page turning, which I couldn't do if I was running the originals as written because they just weren't well organized.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like that even with some of the more modern tabletop RPGs, it's like, what? How does that rule work? I still need to reference it, and I still find myself, flipping through the index or the glossary trying to find a very specific rule. But yeah, with the podcast we're in right now is based off of Swords and Wizardry, which I had never heard of, and just reading through the rules there, it's interesting. It's very interesting. That's just something I'm not used to at all. But so far, I think we're about 4 sessions in, and I have to say it's just as fun. Still getting used to the rules of it, but I mean, it still feels like a nice RPG to play with.
Well, and I'm a big fan of Swords and Wizardry, and I actually took those Swords and Wizardry rules and actually condensed them down to 4 pages, 3 levels, 4 classes, and 4 races.
Oh, wow.
It's all one little folder. It's a great way to if you're running a game in a convention, you can have somebody create a character in less than 10 minutes and be up and running and give them all the rules they need. But with games like Swords and Wizardry, as opposed to 3X or Pathfinder, even 5e to some extent, is you have to realize that there wasn't a rule to cover everything. A lot of it is a give and take between the players and the GM. I want to, can I, leap that chasm? I don't know. Can you? Well, tell me what you're going to do to prepare. No matter you do to prepare, but you have to have faith in your GM.
Yeah, right.
Which, if you learn your gaming with, Pathfinder, and you're comfortable with the rules, and as your GM is knowledgeable of the rules, you can probably have an answer for anything that comes up from the rules. Where with old school gaming, a lot of times there is no rule for exactly what you want to try.
Mm-hmm.
But for most GMs, the wilder you want to try, the more likely you are to succeed because it's just more fun.
Right.
So that's how I run it. Yeah, it's like, so you want to do a flying leap from the balcony into the crowd below while wielding 2 weapons, and you want to you want to like land on somebody and stab somebody else, correct? All right, well, give me a second. Give me a dex check, and then if you succeed on that, Give me 2 attack rolls at -2.
Yeah, I love that, especially when the player lands it. Even like, so I like to tell them like what they need to roll sometimes, just so it's that much more dramatic at the table. And then when it happens and they succeed, it just makes it so much more exciting for everybody.
No, certainly, and that is like I said, you have to. I think that you have to come into it with, again, faith in your game master. You have to be able to trust them to run a game that's not only going to be fun but fair,
Right.
as opposed to games that are more modern games that are more structured, which have rules that. All right, let's be honest. Don't cover everything, but we'll probably cover 90 to 95% of what will come up because they've been.
That.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but because like they play test these games now for like a year and a half, 2 years, whereas I'm sure back in the day these games were, that sounds good, let's run with it. So there wasn't something to cover everything, but yeah, no, it's. And you guys are playing through, I believe, the Blight.
That's right. Yep.
That is. I own it, and it is.
I don't know anything about it.
all I'm going to say, besides the fact that it's a huge book, is that it is extremely well presented and it is dark. I like dark stuff. I like Call of Cthulhu and all that stuff, so it fits me. It wouldn't fit. I couldn't run it for my 8-year-old niece without, like, my sister trying to, kill me.
I can't wait for our next session, to be honest. There's some stuff that went down. Oh, I can't wait.
Awesome. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, then I'm going to give you your next question. Where do you stand on the save or die mechanic?
Save or die mechanic? Oh, man. It's, I mean, hey, why not? I'm okay with it. I'm all for it, to be honest. I mean, if it happens, it happens. You have your stats for a reason. It's supposed to be a representation of your character, and that chance that your character falters in that moment, you die.
Fair enough. Now, the last question before we start doing the Grand Hex Crawl. You came into gaming in your high school years.
Yes.
What would the teenage you think of if they could see where you are as an active person in the hobby these days? What would they think? Would they expect you to be where you were at or not?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've never reflected like that. 16-year-old me versus me now. What would he think? I think he'd be pretty happy. I think he'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Keep it going. This is great. It's a great hobby. I've never not been able to play a tabletop RPG, and it's awesome. It's great to be able to have friends that want to play. Also, there's no experience like this in the world. Just to be able to sit around a table or even online now to play a game where everybody's cooperating to share a narrative that anything that anybody says will have such a profound or menial effect on the world that you guys are playing in. It's wonderful. So I think I'd be 16-year-old me would be very happy. I'm very happy that I'm still able to play this game meant for kids. So.
Well, it's a game meant for kids, but it's written by adults, and
right.
I think that RPGs are more influenced by the user than the initial writers. So
right.
You can keep those same rules. Like rules never go obsolete. If you don't want to change from 3.0 and you stuck with D&D 3.0 throughout they don't go bad. They don't expire. You can always write your own material. It grows with you.
Right.
And that's a lot of what the OSR is. It's old fucks like me going back and rewriting stuff or representing stuff to make it more approachable to a modern audience, but we're still playing how we played back in, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, whenever we came into it.
That's kick ass, man.
So
That's awesome. I hope to
now,
become an old fuck also
well,
playing games.
dude, listen, I mean, I'm 51. I mean, there are old grognards that are much more grumpy and fuckety than I am, but much
Grognards.
grognards.
I'm
But
not familiar with that term.
grognards is usually referring to uh, the gamers that came into role playing often from wargaming in the 70s, because Dungeons and Dragons initially built upon wargaming rules. That's where it grew out of, and then it became its own genre, I guess you could say, its own part of what isn't really. It's not a board game, right? Because you don't have a board in front of you. You might have a game mat or a virtual tabletop mat, but much of what's going on is inside your head. And a lot of times with wargaming, a lot of what's going on is also inside your head. Your vision of what's going on. So I think that's the progression that happened.
Interesting.
So now we're in a part of the podcast where we're like I said, we're free ranging. We're going where we want to go. What's going on? I know you guys are doing the Blight podcast, and you got your Strange Gods podcast. What's your role in all this?
So I'm a player, and it's interesting because the character that I ended up creating is nothing like any other character that I've made before. The rules for Swords and Wizardry are it's just something I'm not used to either. Because I mean, in Pathfinder and D&D 3 and 5e, you're always playing these superheroes in a fantasy world.
Right. You got your feats, you got your skills, you're
yeah, it's super fantastic. It's crazy how I rolled super low. I'm playing a very mentally deficient character, and that's something that I've never done before, even as a role playing. Coming from a role playing aspect, it's a little challenging. So it's been interesting, but yeah, I think we're recording our next episode next week, and I'm hoping that we release a handful of them at once by the end of this month. I don't know if that's exactly true or going to happen, but I think that's kind of what the timeline was. But yeah, it's interesting learning the new rules and the phases of battle and just how that works too compared to Pathfinder. It's a lot different, but it still has the backbone of a classic RPG.
Yeah, it's a little bit more freewheeling.
Yeah.
And like I said, it encourages one to think out of the box, because there's the mindset of, well, if it's not on my character sheet, I don't have it, and that's what a lot of 5e and Pathfinder sometimes comes down to, or at least a feeling of that to some people. And then you play a game like Swords and Wizardry or Labyrinth Lord, and it's like, I have no skills on my sheet. How do I know if I can ride a horse?
Right.
Well, tell me your background, and then we'll decide whether or not you have, skills to do X, Y, and Z. Which is, it's liberating, and then I'm sure at the same time, it's a little scary.
I think there've been a couple times where we've been bogged down a little bit when it came to like certain skills or just how to determine a check or something. But after we get over that hump, everything just kind of rolls on, which is nice. But,
well, and that's a funny thing is that like a lot of the older rule sets didn't have anything like an ability check. So
yeah,
when I ran AD&D back in the early '80s, early and mid '80s, we always used the rule of roll your ability score or under. But I don't know where it came from. It was just
interesting.
Yeah, it was just something, I guess, that was, and this is before the internet, but this is what one gaming group was doing, and some other gaming group picked it up, and it just became part of our nature.
Cool.
I've also seen the 3d6 mechanic, where you roll under your stat with 3d6, and if it's really hard, you got to roll 46.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. That's cool.
So that way you can have like a difficulty adjustment built into the mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff
Makes
that,
sense.
and I'm thinking that a lot of the stuff was probably picked up from other of the earlier role playing games. I think Tunnels and Trolls had a mechanic that was kind of like if it's adding a die if it's difficulty. I should know. There's like 7 different editions and I own 6, but I can't remember perfectly on that one. So, and now, how many episodes of the Strange Gods podcast is out there in the wild?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I think there might be close to 10. I could be very wrong about this. And Melkor might kill my character. Oh, there's 16. I just looked it up.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, so 16 of the Strange Gods podcast. It's based off of the Jade Regent adventure path from Pathfinder and Paizo.
Right.
I am not part of that project, but
okay.
It's still fun to listen to. Yeah, so I'm in the Swords and Misery podcast is what we're calling it for the Swords and Wizardry game.
Well, I'm going to tell you publicly right now when it does go up, the Blight with the Swords and Wizardry rules. Somebody from the podcast should definitely reach out to me for 2 reasons. One, I'll share it out on the blog side and give it a mention on the podcast. But additionally, I am the convention coordinator for Frog God Games, so I do work with Frog God Games, and I'm sure I can convince them to include it into one of their, I think, twice a month emails that go out to their readership.
Oh man, that would be freaking sweet.
So, please, somebody should pay me, because I remember I do have connections with the company, and I know the person who prepares those emails, so we could probably get that done, and they'd love to share that out.
Oh man, that'd be badass of you.
Okay. So.
Hell yeah, that's cool, man. Sweet.
I try.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No, seriously. I mean, that's an opportunity that shouldn't be missed either by you all or by Frog God. The synergy there is perfect. So certainly going to make that happen.
Cool, man. I'm excited. I can't wait to play the next game and get our first couple episodes out. Hurry up and edit them, Melkor. Hurry.
We'll pick up on it. But again, give me the heads up, and I will definitely make sure that stuff happens.
For sure.
So no rush, Melkor. No, not at all. God forbid there's a rush. Actually, I should look up on my chart. When am I talking to Melkor? Hold on a second here. Melkor is on Saturday the 26th.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, you know what? If he gets his ass in motion now, this might be a perfect timing for him to mention the release of it. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm just
right.
In a perfect world, the synergy would be.
It could line up. It could line up.
Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Rabbit, you have convinced me. I'll look for Muggsy in the city. But
so do you play? What games do you play currently?
Currently, I haven't had a chance to play as a player.
Oh no!
In a bit over a year.
Oh wow!
Actually, it wasn't even a player. I was running that game 3 days a week, and pretty much November of 2017, I think I went to GaryCon and ran a couple of games at GaryCon and came back, and I was exhausted. Gave up the reins and DMing. I might have popped into a session or two irregularly after that, but no, I'm looking to get back into it for 2019. But I've been running games at conventions. I no longer even playing games at conventions, but I've I run them. My wife gets to playing games at conventions.
Oh, you guys should double team and play.
I'd love to. Usually, though, I don't know what my schedule is, and until they tell me.
Okay.
They
those people
at Frog God Games, those evil people that pay my hotel fee, my hotel bills and my convention fees, so I can sell stuff at the table like the Blight and run games. Listen, if I could have dreamed what I'd be doing in retirement, this is certainly not I would have ever dreamed of. But it's beyond any of the dreams I could have had. It is.
Hey man, it sounds like a good gig.
Yeah, it is. I have no complaints, and as Pex told me very recently, he's like, "You got to apologize to Rachel, my wife." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, because we got you working full time again." I go, "No, you don't." And like I said, I've been filling out those pocket calendar books with everything I'm doing. I'm like, "Oh my god, I am working full time. How'd that happen?"
Shout out to Pex.
Yes, but no, it's just a beautiful. Again, I have no complaints. And cool, if I do complain, somebody should just shut me up because I have no right to.
Is that Pex's job?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a left-handed person, so Pex is my right hand. But
hey, I'm a lefty too. What's up?
Yeah, lefties we have trouble using scissors.
No, I think it's the scissors are just made incorrectly. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's annoying. Although of course I throw a baseball with my right hand because my father my father bought a glove that he could use, so I had to learn how to throw righty. I can do darts with either hand.
Oh wow!
I bowl righty.
Wow!
And I shoot lefty.
See, I'm all lefty.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with my right hand. I'd be like my character in the Swords and Misery podcast, trying to use my right hand.
There you go. Well, it's funny too. My niece is a lefty, and I was like,
"We're taking over the world."
Man, she's 8, and I've told her, I go, "You're lefty. That's great, because you know how to watch." She's like, "Why?" Because if you plan it right, you're going to be a lefty, but you'll also have some right-handed skills that will surprise people.
Pepper in some normalness.
Yeah, just some. Keep them on their toes.
That's cool.
Well, listen, Rob, I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's good, man, and I hope the listening community, Strange Gods podcast, you can look it up on Google. That's from what I can tell, you guys are up on pretty much all the podcast catchers.
Yep, even Spotify.
Even I'm on Spotify, and I think I get like 3 plays a week.
Yeah, Spotify is not really the podcast platform.
No. Apparently, it's iTunes, but who am I to say? But seriously, I really appreciate this. I'm glad that we're going to get a chance to talk with another member of your podcast next week.
Cool.
Damn, January's going by real quick.
Yeah, it's already we're already halfway through it. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, folks, thank you for listening. As always, be safe. God bless. Roll your dice well. I will talk with you tomorrow. Robert will be talking with you all when his next podcast goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to wish you good night, folks. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
And yeah, it's a delayed leaving, folks. I screwed that one up. Bye.